Introducing YouTube memberships, a fun way to support the channel while getting some exclusive perks. Click the join button to become a member now and get benefits like badges next to your name on videos, behind-the-scenes photos, advantages during the live trivia game, discounts on merchandise, private one-on-one video chats, the ability to request future video topics, and exclusive 8 to 10 minute videos on the history of the NFL. And now, on with our feature presentation. If you remember the Jets-Browns game from 2002, odds are it's for this iconic moment that took place afterwards.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game.
Shortly after the Jets choked in incredible fashion to the Browns, dropping to 2-5 on the season, and seemingly being out of the hunt, Herm Edwards took to the podium and delivered one of the most memorable rants and quotes in NFL history. You play to win the game. More than 2 decades later, the quote lives on, not just because of how iconic and how applicable it is, but because the Jets season turned around in dramatic fashion afterwards. Following that press conference, the Jets, who seemed to be all but dead in the water with the second worst record in football and 3 games back of first place in the AFC East, somehow turned things around, ending the season by going 7-2 over their final 9 games. And in absolutely dramatic fashion, thanks to some help on the final day of the season from the New England Patriots, won the division, advanced to the playoffs, and made it all the way to the divisional round. It was a remarkable turnaround that no one saw coming, and to this day, this remains the last time that the Jets have ever won the division, marking the second longest active division title drought in the league, only behind the Cleveland Browns. So you probably remembered that part about the game. But what you probably don't remember is just how awful Herm Edwards was as a head coach, and how he had quite possibly the worst timeout management you're ever going to see in your life. If you've watched any of the Dumb Decisions videos on this channel, where I break down the hilariously stupid and inept things that coaches do, you know how valuable timeouts can be. You know how precious the ability to stop the clock can be, especially in a late game situation when you might need to get the ball back or engineer some sort of late drive, or might just need a second to catch your breath and regroup and talk things over before a big play. Timeouts are a big deal, and ideally in the second half, you want to have all of your timeouts as late as possible. But what if I said that in this game, the Jets and head coach Herm Edwards, in all their stupidity, burn all of their timeouts 8 minutes into the second half? Seriously, with 22 minutes left to go in the game, the Jets had no timeouts available at their disposal. And that definitely didn't come back to bite them in any way whatsoever. Because with the Jets and Browns playing each other tonight, if you're watching as of the day this video drops, this is the story behind what has to be, considering the circumstances, the worst timeout management in the over 60-year history of the Jets franchise. Before I talk about the actual timeout management in question and just how awful it was, because trust me, there is no justification for burning all of your timeouts 8 minutes into the half, we need some context to understand how this game was going and the importance of it. It's October 27, 2002. It's week 8 of the NFL season, and as we're nearing the midway point of the year, we've got a game on our hands over at the Meadowlands between the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. For the main team in our story, the Jets, this feels like a must-win game in many ways. They enter this one with an abysmal 2-4 record, as through 6 games, they are one of the worst teams in football. They've got the second worst point differential in the league. Their offense has scored just 95 points, coming out to around 15 points per game, making it one of the bottom 5 totals in the league. And that's even worse when you realize that they scored 37 in the opening week of the season against Buffalo. Since that opening game against the Bills, the Jets have been outscored 138-58, scoring single digits in 3 of those games and allowing 28 or more in 4 of those games. If they can't beat the Browns, considering the fact that they're 3 back of the Dolphins for first place in the AFC East, and it looks like the AFC wildcard picture is going to be super tight, with a bunch of teams hovering around that 500 mark at the moment, then their season might be dead in the water, barring a complete miracle. Now, the good news for the Jets is that so far, they actually looked like a competent football team. They actually looked like they might be turning the corner, as they score 3 touchdowns over the first 16 minutes of the contest, thanks to a 63-yard punt return by Santana Moss and 2 touchdown passes by former first-round pick and third-year man Chad Pennington. The Jets lead at 21-3 after 16 minutes, and at the halftime break, lead at 21-6 thanks to a strong defensive performance that over the course of the first 7 drives of the game allowed no touchdowns and forced 5 punts, including 3 3-and-outs. It would take something crazy for the Jets to somehow blow this game, in which they led by 3 possessions, and would take some abysmal coaching for them to collapse and potentially throw their season away. Well, even though the Jets lead it by 15 points, leave it to the Jets to figure out a way to do this. Because it may introduce you to some of the worst clock management you're ever going to see in your life in terms of how not to use timeouts. After both teams punt the ball on their first drive of the second half, the Jets find themselves facing 2nd and 8 at their own 31-yard line. Pennington dials up a play-action pass and hits his fullback, former Pro Bowler Richie Anderson, in the flat for a gain of 4 yards. Now it's 3rd and 4, and prior to this play, a Jets offensive lineman got injured, so there was a stoppage already. It's not like the Jets had to rush this play. They had plenty of time to talk it over, and for Pennington and the offense to meet with the coaching staff to figure out what to call on 3rd down, and depending on what defense lines up, what play to call. It wasn't as though there were 40 seconds in between the 2nd down play and the 3rd down play. There were a solid 3 minutes in between the plays due to the injury. However, with the Browns looking like they're going to show a blitz, Pennington and the Jets opt to call a timeout. As head coach Herm Edwards said afterwards, "We used the first one when Pennington didn't like the coverage. I mean, I guess, but couldn't you call an audible? Do you not trust your quarterback to audible? It's not like you were late leaving the huddle or had to rush to get this off. You had plenty of time. You saw the look. Couldn't audible into a different play and save the timeout?" And it's odd because offensive coordinator Paul Hackett usually gives Pennington the freedom to audible. He was audibling plays back in 2001 during the preseason when he was significantly less experienced. And in 2001, when Hackett was asked about whether his signal caller could audible, he said, "Yeah, he can change. That's happened in the past." But I guess not on this play. Jets burned the first of their 3 timeouts just 5.5 minutes into the second half. Oh, and for what it's worth, it didn't matter. Pennington threw an incomplete pass on the ensuing play, so the Jets went 3 and out, giving it right back to the Browns. Now, it's time for Cleveland's first play from scrimmage on this drive, and Browns quarterback Tim Couch hits Kevin Johnson on the sideline for a gain of 10 and a first down to push the ball to midfield. And almost immediately, without any hesitation whatsoever, Edwards throws the challenge flag. Despite the fact that this play happened on the Jets sideline, so you had a clear look at this. Despite the fact that the field is a mess, so any sort of toe drag will be extremely visible. And despite the fact that this is a 10-yard play on first down, so I'm not even sure if it's worth it whatsoever, Edwards throws the flag. As is abundantly clear, Johnson got both feet in and maintained control the entire time. Not that that part of it was ever an issue. So the challenge was unsuccessful. What doesn't make sense about this, aside from the abrupt nature of throwing the flag without even giving it a second thought or a chance for someone upstairs to look at it, was that when you've already lost 1 timeout, is it really worth it to challenge a play like this if it's that close? A 30-yard play is one thing. A play that gets you into scoring range is one thing. A catch like this on 3rd down or 4th down, where you'd be getting the ball back otherwise, I would get the logic there. But a first down play to pick up 10 yards? I just don't know. The reward is that you back them up 10 yards and give them 2nd and 10. The risk is that you lose an all-important timeout and only have 1 left. I think the risk outweighs the reward. And that was if the play was close. If Edwards just waited a few seconds to give his guys upstairs a chance to look at this with another angle, he would have known to keep the flag in his pocket, especially since the Browns weren't hurrying to the line or anything like that. As Edwards said on this one, the second one was the catch on the sideline. I challenged it. I thought Kevin Johnson was out of bounds, but he wasn't. That's 2 of them gone, and that's tough. Yeah, Herm, it's tough, but whose fault is that? Whose fault is that your second timeout is gone 6 minutes into the half? No one but yourself. You have no one to blame but yourself for this. All you had to do was wait, or just not throw the flag at all. Instead, you did an impulse throw like a kid on Amazon makes an impulse buy. All of that for a 10-yard difference on a play that was never going to be overturned and never looked that controversial. Come on. Alright, so the Jets now have just 1 timeout left with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. The Jets, to their credit, managed to go the next 2.5 minutes without wasting one of these bad boys. But after 2nd and 10 at the 35-yard line, after a completion by Tim Couch to Quincy Morgan for a gain of 4 to set up 3rd and 6, guess what happens next? Take a wild guess as to what happens next. The Jets have to burn their final timeout, because the coaching staff doesn't realize that there were only 10 men on the field. That's right. Let's do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, I don't see number 11. I don't see the 11th player, and last time I checked, you need 11 players on the field. I mean, you don't have to have 11, but you just look really stupid and the play would probably fail. Said Edwards, on the third one, our defensive coordinator called the defense, but he didn't like our personnel, so he called the timeout. No, there's a massive difference between he didn't like our personnel and we didn't have enough guys on the field. That's like one of my workers getting arrested for murder and I fire them, and I say that I fire them for creative differences. 2 very different things. Not liking the personnel is, I should probably swap out a defensive back for a linebacker if this is what they're going to be running. Not liking the personnel is, they've got an extra offensive lineman out there that I didn't expect. So let's get an extra defensive lineman out there. Not liking the personnel is not, we had 10 on the field and we needed 11. That's not liking the personnel, that's just a brain fart. And with that, the Jets had to burn their final timeout. There were 6 minutes and 19 seconds left in the third quarter, and the Jets had no timeouts to their name. Not even 9 minutes into the half, not even 28% of the way into the half, and the Jets had no timeouts. Oh, and for what it's worth, the Browns got a first down and scored a touchdown on the drive. And it's not like those timeouts would have mattered for the Jets. It's not like they blew this lead and then had to completely rush their final drive, which ended in no points, and then couldn't get the ball back from the Browns because the Browns could just take a knee since the Jets had no timeouts. Oh wait, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what freaking happened. The Browns won the game 24-21. The Jets completed an insane choke job even by their standards, and they did it with no timeouts over the final 21.5 minutes of the game. Who knew? Who possibly knew that not having timeouts would come back to haunt you? Who could have possibly seen this coming? I've seen bad timeout management before, where teams just waste timeouts for no reason and have one or none left before the fourth quarter. Heck, I did a video a while ago on a 2006 game between the Denver Broncos and the San Francisco 49ers, where the Broncos burned all 3 of their timeouts on one drive on offense in the third quarter, leaving them with no timeouts for the final 17 minutes of regulation. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. But as bad as that was, and trust me, it was bad, and it denied them an extra possession at the end of the game to possibly win it in regulation, at least the Broncos scored on the drive in question. Not only did the Jets manage to burn through all 3 of their timeouts 4.5 minutes before the Broncos did, but none of the 3 timeouts even worked. The first one to change the play didn't give the Jets a first down. The second one to challenge a play was unsuccessful. And the third one to adjust the defense resulted in the Browns scoring a touchdown on that drive. It's actually genuinely impressive how you can butcher a situation like this so badly, but the Jets found a way. They found a way, alright. Unless it is absolutely urgent and necessary. A golden rule for coaches to live by is to not be wasteful with your timeouts in the third quarter of the game. And there is no scenario, none at all, where you should be burning all 3 of your timeouts before the fourth quarter. If you do that, you are a poorly coached team. Plain and simple. Because as Herm Edwards learned on this day in 2002, if you truly want to play to win the game, then you should play to save your timeouts until you absolutely need them. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.